Hey everybody, Big Mess of Branch Outdoors with this week's fly tying tutorial. And the tutorial this week is actually going to be about how do you prepare hackle feathers. So I'm going to do my best to answer some of those questions. I've been asked this in person, and I've been asked actually about an hour ago from the Wandering Purple Squirrel about preparing hackle feathers. So I'm going to go over a couple of things that I do, and hopefully these tips will help you in your tying endeavor. Once again, please understand, you do you, I do me. I'm just trying to teach you technique and the world to be a greater place. So I'm going to be talking specifically about tying dry flies at this particular point, and we can dive into more detail if you want me to down the road about other feathers and things of that nature. But for tonight's purposes, I'm going to be talking about dry flies. So the other night, for those of you who watched that video on the peacock caddis, thank you very much. It's probably the worst looking peacock caddis I've probably tied in a long time. That wing on that thing, once I saw it, that thing was shorter than somebody trying to hit a home run that only is 4 feet tall. But anyway, it'll fish, and that's not the so we'll definitely do a reprieve on that with a different caddis style or a stimulator style fly. And thank you folks from watching from all over the place. You've been chiming in, let me know where you're at. We got Washington State, people all over the United States watching. So last week, I was tying with a grizzly hackle, and off the camera, I had actually stripped the barbules. So when I am tying, whether you're right-handed or left-handed, when you are going to tie your feather into the hook, you want the shiny side facing away from you. So in this case, it's actually facing you, the viewer, at this particular point in time. But as you can see here, I have actually stripped the bottom barbules off that particular feather at that particular point. So a couple reasons why you don't have to do that, but a few reasons why you do. But most importantly, is it allows the feather to lay on the hook without crushing the barbules. Meaning that if I want a really clean, if I'm tying a fly for a competition, or if I don't need something that really needs to be high floating fly, that makes a really, really awesome, pretty fly for sure. Will it fish? Absolutely, it'll do the job. When you pick your feather off, so I'm just going to pick a feather off here. These are some remnants. You're going to have your, here we go. When we look at this and we get the bottom part off, but you can see here, here's your top and your bottom, just like so. Shiny side, once again, is facing you. If I hold it up, you can kind of see the bend, the concave, convex there, of course. Now, can I tie this in like this? Absolutely. Two ways of doing so. You want to take your fingers, you want to strip off your barbules here, once again like that. But what I like to do is go ahead and strip off a little bit more. That way when I start to tie it, we're going to get that wrap started nicely. What you guys did not see last week, and gals, was I went ahead and had this feather prepped just like this. I just stroked those barbules, and then I just reached in here and grabbed the feathers just like so, or the barbs just like that. Real simple to do. Now this is something I did not come up with this theory. I learned it. Another thing you can do is, and you'll see this happen as well. So let me just get another feather off here. Tell I'm kind of down to some of the sizes on here. Just take my scissors, clean it off the bottom. So some people will kind of come in here and give it a haircut. So they'll take their scissors and they'll trim it like that. And what happens is you create these little ridges here that they're short. They're actually fairly stiff. And when you do that, your thread's going to grab that and you're not going to be able to pull that feather out. That's okay too. I think for me, some of the things that are important is where am I tying the feather in at? And what type of look am I trying to get out of the feather? And what kind of performance am I trying to get out of the feather? That will certainly dictate the style that I do. If you've got a very, very small area, for instance, and I know you're going to be working with size appropriate feathers, to me, having this particular scenario here works better. Plus, keep in mind, if you're combining colors, say I've got a grizzly and a brown, coachman style. Let's say that we're tying an atom. you know, I'm going to have 2 different hackle feathers. So I've got to keep in mind, I'm going to have 2 feather stems plus this here, the barbills that I have to contend with. So I'm eliminating some of that mass, I say mass, but the amount of feathers that are on there, bulk. So if I have all those extra barbills, you're going to start mashing them, and your fiber is going to go all over the place. And I'm going to show you here on the hook as well, so you can see what I'm talking about. But that is the couple of ways that I do prep these feathers, is just like that there, and hopefully you can see that okay. So let me put the jaws here in my Norvise right quick. Great thing about a Norvise is real easy to do. Boom, we've done it. Got that in there. 88 out the gate. So let me grab a hook while that's spinning there right quick. Let me just grab a hook. I think there's one laying right here at the bench. Once again, let me know where you're viewing from this evening. We are going to do the name of that fly from a couple of weeks ago, plus we will give away a dozen flies to the winner of that, whoever that lucky person is. I think I'm actually going to change thread here right quick. We've got some other bobbins. I just want to give us a contrasting color, so let's go here with, I got some red right here. So let's grab some red, get this started here on the hook there. Just like that. Beautiful. I'm just going to lay down a thread base. If you're not using a Norvise, this is one of the cool things you can do with this particular vise. And maybe this is a good, another how-to scenario bonus is, if you notice, if you are just now to the Norvise family and you are learning how to use a Norvise, one of the things I struggled with was doing what I just did right there. Keeping that bobbin close or parallel to the hook shank right here. What I would do is I would keep it down here like this, and then I would get here to that hook point, and you might could hear that, but that's disaster waiting to happen. I just never could grasp the fact of bringing my bobbin parallel to the hook right there and just letting it do that right there. So just another tip, if you are using a Norvise, just take your time. You don't have to be as fast. I don't expect you to be as fast. It's all about, over time, you'll build speed. So let me take one of these feathers here prepared, and you're going to see the difference. So I'm going to take the one that we're stripping the bottom barbills off. So we'll start with that one. Just like so. So if you noticed, I did leave a longer section here. So this is the stem. I like, once again, as I mentioned before, I'm going to spin my thread counterclockwise, which will cause it to jump backwards. But I'm going to wrap this or attach it to where the stem is somewhat on my side. But the shiny side is facing you, the camera, but you, the tire, the dull side is going to be facing you. And when I pick this up, I want the feather to rotate. This is where we can get into some topics for discussion. The better the feather quality, the easier it is to tie with, and you get a better tied fly. And it has to do with the stems. These stems are pretty supple. You see how easy that's building, that it's bending right there, not building, but it's bending. You can get one that is not supple, it's very stiff. Regardless of what you do, it may not rotate the way we want it to, and that's going to be an issue. But if you notice here, I've got a little bit of space between where I tied it. It's attached to the hook, as you can see, but there's a little bit of space between here and the first barbill. And the reason for that is I want to be able to get that one move right there. Now, if you notice, I can make side-by-side wraps. And I'm trying to do this slow, so let me tighten up my tension knob. But you see how those are just laid in there side by side by side. Nice and even, just like that. Now think about a, maybe you're tying an Adam style fly or a Wolf style fly, a Mayfly style fly. Straight up down, boom, Quill Gordon style. Pretty fly. That's what we're looking for on this particular setup. I want to bring my auto bobbin back over. I'm going to capture that stem a couple of times. Got it. Boom, we're there. I'm going to reach in with my scissors, trim it. put in a half hitch. There we go. You can see how clean that is. And this was not something that I was taught when I first started tying flies. As a matter of fact, I picked this up, oh geez, probably the late, let's say probably after 2016 or so, that I actually kind of came across this and seen the value of this here. And this is going to fish perfectly fine, no problems at all, none whatsoever, but it's going to make you a real pretty fly, and hopefully that kind of shows you something there. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to come right here and I'm going to put in a half hitch. I'm going to try to even out this thread base here right quick, and I'm going to tie it in without stripping off that bottom barbule so you can see the difference there. And you might be able to see on this particular feather, but there's a little bit of twist in it. And that's something you've got to look at too, because you can have that twist in your feather, and it's not going to lay in there properly as well. So like this one here, that stem is not as good, but we can get away with it. So I'm just going to strip those barbules like so. If you can see that right there. And I am going to strip off those barbs. Get that started. So what I'm doing is I'm giving me a lock-in point, okay? So I want to come right here. Once again, spin my thread counterclockwise. I want to capture. Just for reference, once again, shiny side is going to be facing you. So when I stand it up to wrap, the shiny side will face actually the eye of the hook. That stem is locked in place. I want to come right here. Now these first few wraps, you're going to notice that it's going to look like the back, but as I start to wrap forward side by side, it's going to start to get a little messy. Now we're starting to get to where I don't have it. And those are almost like crisscrossing wraps. So what you do is you partially mash, you're mashing barbs as you go is what you're doing. So if you look at this underneath a something with a lot of magnification, you'd really be able to see it. Especially if we had two colors. Let me see if I can intermix some colors here right quick. But basically that's the difference there. I will tell you that if you're tying a caddis or a Palmer style fly, this method closest to the eye of the hook is definitely preferred because it's almost like a crisscross in there, so it's giving you more of that surface tension. But you can see here, you can probably see how much cleaner the first feather is that I tied in. Wait, finish there right quick. Don't know, the guys are on the other side of the camera, they might be able to see a little bit better of what I'm talking about there. But if you pay attention to the hook shank right here. So if you notice in here, you're going to see space. You probably see some red thread, but back here, you're not seeing as much red thread because we're getting tighter, closer wraps in there is what we're doing. Everything's lined up like perfect soldiers, or if you've done a tile job or something like that, everything's lined up uniform. Here, it's crisscross, 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 crisscross. So you're not always guaranteed that uniformity that you get, and then if you have feathers or barbules that start to go wonky, that's exactly what happens with it. Now, will both of them fish? Absolutely. The most important thing is, regardless of what you're tying, is that you can get your tippet through the eye of the hook. I just picked this hook, and actually it's sized perfectly for this particular hackle. It was just laying over here. It was just a blank hook. So I'm going to grab another hook here, and I'm going to grab another feather and see if we can just kind of combine some colors. And kind of show you what happens when you potentially have two feathers. Now, ironically, you could take this particular fly right here. If we would have just, basically, if this would have been black thread, we pretty much created a Griffin Snap style fly. That's what we call palmering the hackle, by the way, when you're wrapping the hackle around the hook, just like that. That's what we did. That floats quite well, actually. I know you can't see it here, but it stands up quite nicely, and honestly, as weird as that looks, it will probably actually get fish to hit it there. So there we go. So I'm going to put another hook here in my Norvise fly tying system. I'm actually using the standard jaws in case you folks are wondering. And there will be a link down below to the Norvise website. And as always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Appreciate all the feedback that we're getting from you. And certainly thanks for watching. do help us. If this is your first time watching or if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. We're trying to hit that 200 subscribership mark and keep on growing and be able to bring you better content and hopefully move our way up the video ranking system. The other, maybe a tip I can give you about hackle is storage of hackle. Try to keep your hackles in plastic bags if you can, and the reason for that is because bugs will get into them and they will they'll put a hurting on your feathers. And you know, a good quality of feathers not cheap. I've been fortunate. I've had feathers given to me by some really nice people, sizes, things like that that they can't use. Maybe they're too small for them and stuff. But take care of what you got, regardless if you spend 20 bucks for it, if you spend 100 bucks for it. Keep that in mind. So here we go. Got this kind of cool color. It's not really brown. It's kind of more like chocolate. What do you guys think? It's kind of like a chocolate covered, maybe like a, almost kind of like a fudgesicle in some ways. It's kind of a cool color. It's kind of a cool hairstyle in there. Yeah. Rock that thing to the prom, guys. You know what I mean? Rock it to the prom, baby. Sonic the Hedgehog. All right. So I'm going to reach in here and I'm going to grab one that's a little bit bigger just for contrast. And you can definitely see here, you see, I want to strip. See how much larger those barbills are right there. See that? So I'm definitely going to strip that off. And the other thing too about cost, you see how big that stem is? Those are the things that make a difference when you get a higher quality. Well, let me do something else here right quick. Boom. Harrison, if you're watching, it looks like Mac Jones is coming to Jacksonville, man. Looks like the Patriots are doing a trade with the Jaguars. So Trevor's going to have another backup down there. So here we go. So I've prepped that feather just like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take one of these grizzly hackles here. As you can see, it's stripped on the bottom as well. And when you're tying in two hackle feathers, you want to stack them. So what I like to do is I go with the shortest one first, which would be facing you. So this is the hardest part, is when you're tying multiple hackles, is trying to get them lined up. You can see that, I'm trying to get them lined up right there. I want to take my hackle stems and try to make them even. Once again, I want to spin my thread counterclockwise. Shiny side is facing you. For me, it's away from the tire. I'm looking at the dull side. I'm looking at the boring side. How about that? Half hitch. Okay. Hackle pliers. There are times I use hackle pliers and there's times that I don't. I like using longer feathers when I can, but we can't always do that. Hackle pliers are good. There's all different kinds out there. As far as wrapping hackle, I like to wrap hackle at the same time. Okay, but you see, with a shorter feather, I probably need a hackle plier. But what I'm going to do in this case here is I'm going to grab both these hackle feathers and I want to start spinning them at the same time. Here's the hard part about this here, is you want to try to keep those stems as parallel as possible. So there we go. So now I've got two colors mixed together, and you see how much more bulk I'm building up in that right there. So those fibers, for the most part, the brown fibers are almost in an X position. And as we get toward the front here, some of the grizzly is going to be like that too. Actually, let's see here. No, so the grizzly's more up and down in this particular case, more perpendicular. So there we go. So that's mixing your hackle fibers together. So the benefit of stripping off, I think we can all agree to, is the fact that you can get nicer, tighter wraps in there. It's a much neater job. But then if you don't want to do that, if you're cool with having some of these fibers going any which way you want to, like right here, then it's certainly going to do the job as well. And that's perfectly fine. So hopefully that answers some of the questions that the Wandering Purple Squirrel might have had, and maybe some of you other folks out there. These are just basically, I think, some of the fundamentals that just kind of get overlooked. And there are other things that I can do, such as you know, using the other parts of the feathers, or feathers we can't use, and use fingernail clippers. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can show you that. I'm going to, well, I actually have Alex and Braden on the other side of the camera. Alex is up from Belmont. Going to see if we can get ready for turkey season. So I'm going to take fingernail clippers, and this is a trip that Roger Lowe showed me years ago, back in the 90s. So what we do here is I want to take this larger feather, and I want to do a hackle cut wing. So I'm going to take a pair of fingernail clippers. You guys see that over there? Beautiful. So what I'm going to do for me, I'm actually going to take the feather. You can see the bend in the feather, like so. See how it's got the bend shape to it. Shiny side, dull side. I'm going to have the shiny side kind of facing this way. I'm going to take the natural curve of the fingernail clipper, and I'm going to come in here just like so. I need to raise it up like that. Can you guys see that? All right, beautiful. I'm getting a thumbs up from the back end. So I'm going to come in here as close as I can, and I trim that off. Okay, can you guys see that so far right there? See what I've done? All right, now I'm going to reverse the process. I'm going to flip it to the other side. I'm going to take my fingernail clippers. Now, can you guys see that? Beautiful. And that's all I'm doing. Boom. Right there is a wing. That is a hackle cut wing. These make amazing wings for a dry fly. Let me grab another one right quick, and I'll show you what we do, make a matching set. It's pretty cool. I do get asked this, but I haven't had anybody on the other side of the camera to kind of tell me if they could see what was going on there or not. So let me just grab a feather. We'll do it again. I'll tie it in, and you'll see, like, man, those are actually pretty cool. You combine this type of wing with you know, wrapping hackle the way that we just did right there, you get a pretty cool looking fly, very, very clean fly. The cool thing is, if you play your cards right, you can get multiple wings out of one feather. So let me do it again right quick. I just don't want this to be a talking head video. Boom. And come in here like this. I'm going to do it again right quick. I'm just trying to speed up the process so we can get on with what we're doing. These wings are very, very durable. The key to this is having super sharp fingernail clippers. So let me put my jaw back in right quick, and we'll do this. I'll show you this, and then we'll call it an evening. Actually, I've got to edit it first and get it posted, but that's what we'll do. All right, let's go and change hooks again right quick. I think I got one more right here, so beautiful. It worked out beautifully. So I'm just going to take this hook, drop it in here right quick. Going to grab my scissors and my bobbin. I always like to keep my scissors here in my hand. Another trick there for you. All right, there we go. Beautiful. Just a little bit of a thread base. So where do I place my wings? So use your scissors as calipers. This here is going to be the length of the shank of the hook. If you go half, I like to kind of go to a third, so I need to back my thread up just a smidge. So, well, right in there. All right, so in these guys, what I want to do is I want to take the bends, the bend of the feathers, I want them to match. Oh, so when they stand up, I'm not explaining it too well. I want them, when they go together, they naturally splay out. So I want to tie these in, totally opposite of probably the way you've been taught to tie in wings, is I'm going to have both of them facing forward like this. And I'm going to come in here, once again, spin my thread counterclockwise. Loose wrap, loose wrap, loose wrap. I'm good there. I want to stand that up. I want to take a look, just like that. I'm good with that. I want to bend them, and I want to come in just like that. Beautiful. Now, I can come in here with my scissors. I can come in at an angle, or honestly, I can break that off as well. There's a trick to that too. I'm just going to secure those ends down right so. I'm going to come in here and do some crisscross wraps, just like that. You don't need to do a figure 8, but you see how nice those wings look on that. Hopefully folks can see that. All right, so let's take it one step further. Let me grab a hackle feather here. This is not going to be size appropriate, but it's going to be cool enough for you to see what we're talking about there. I'm just going to strip off the bottom. And the key to doing this, if you're tying a lot of flies, is just having this already done. Having prep work done. So here we go. I'm just going to use one. So you get that tight in there like so. Beautiful. Okay. If you've not done hackle wings like this, this is something you probably should try. Okay. All right. Now here's all we got to do. I want to grab this. I'm going to bend those wings forward just like that, which you can't really do with a hackle tip wing. This is really taking the place of the hackle tip. It's called a hackle cut. So I'm just going to start rotating forward. Now I'm to the point I want to bend these back like so. Going to come around. See that right there? And just like that. Boom. There we go. We have put wings and hackle on a dry fly. That's how we would do that right there. Come in here like this, trim it, wham, put in a 1/2 inch. At this point here, you would be finishing your fly with your, with your head, your whip finish and your head cement, and you're ready to rock and roll. So hopefully that will help you there too. Cool thing is you can do whatever you want to. So there we go. See, my thread's about to whack on me anyway. So there we go. If you folks have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments down below. So I just broke it right there. That's why redundancy is cool to have that double whip finish and also the 1/2 inch in there. That's not going to go nowhere. Anyway, this is just for demonstration purposes. It's actually not a fly that I'm actually going to take out onto water tooth fish. I do have a razor blade. I'll actually cut it apart and use the hook there for sure. So be sure to like and subscribe, hit that notification bell so that way you know when a new video goes out. Follow us on all the social media platforms. Wandering Purple Squirrel, thank you for the question. Look forward to seeing you folks next week. Y'all take care.